DeSantis is going viral right now, you guys, for bringing to light how property taxes are ridiculous and unconstitutional. And he's even talking about completely abolishing them in Florida. So I want to show you this video. It's a little on the long side, but he kind of breaks down how awful property taxes are and what he's going to do about it in Florida. As always, guys, please like this video and subscribe to my channel so other great patriots like yourself will see it. Here we go.
You should own your property free and clear. I think to say that someone that's been in their house for 35 years just has to keep ponying up money, that is not. You don't own your home if that's the case. So yes, of course, I'd like to see people be able to owe free and clear. And it's interesting because it's like if I go to Best Buy and buy a flat screen TV and put it on the wall, I got to pay a sales tax on it, right? But I don't keep paying tax on it every year. I mean, it's just not, that's not how we do things. It's like, okay, if you're going to tax something, you tax it at the transaction and then let people actually enjoy their private property free and clear of the government. So that, I think, is the vision. That's the philosophical insight. And if you think about our founding fathers, when they were proposing the Constitution, in one of the Federalist Papers, I think it was Hamilton, he's writing about, because, there was opposition to the Constitution. They were making a more powerful federal government than under the Articles of Confederation, and people were worried about taxation. And they didn't have, obviously, a 16th Amendment, which eventually came on income tax, but basically you were not effectively allowed to do any direct taxation. It had to be indirect, meaning you couldn't just, you could theoretically just apply like a tax on land federally, but it'd have to be a portion among the states, so practically it could never work. So basically, Hamilton's saying, look, the indirect taxes are the most effective, efficient way to raise revenue for the government, because they basically allow the individual to choose how much tax they want to pay based on how much they're consuming. And there's a security, there's a protection against excessive tax in that regard, because if the government raises consumption tax too much, it kills the golden goose, because then it causes people to stop purchasing as much. But he said taxing property is one of the worst forms of taxation, because people don't have a choice in the matter, and you're just basically drilling these folks over and over again on tax. And so
that is a really good explanation for property taxes. The three unalienable rights, we all know it, is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which is essentially the right to own land. It comes directly from John Locke. And the problem with property taxes is you don't really have a God-given right if at any moment the government could come and take it from you if you don't pony up. Also, with property taxes, they can just raise the rate at any point. They can raise what your property is worth, and you're going to have to pay more. And again, if you don't pony up, you lose your land, which means it's not really an unalienable right. So the fact that we put up with it is ridiculous. I think the founding fathers would roll over in their graves if they saw how much people are being taxed for their property today. What Republicans and most free market conservatives would like to see is a return to the taxation that DeSantis is talking about in here, which is essentially that taxes would get charged based off of what you consume rather than what you earn. The reason, though, why Democrats and progressives hate that idea is because they are regressive forms of taxation versus progressive ones. So a progressive one, for instance, is what we have right now, where 10% of the population, the top 10%, pay about 90% of the taxes, because income tax scales the higher you go up, right? If you make $1 million, you're going to be paying way more, not just in terms of the actual taxes paid, but a percentage of your income than someone who makes $100,000, for example. The reason why I like sales tax and why sales tax is a regressive form is because it favors the rich and the poor kind of equally in terms of the dollar amount. So if a rich person and a poor person go to the store and buy a Coke, each of them are going to be charged that, say, 7% sales tax. It's the same amount of money for each. It may affect them differently. It might be a little harder on the poor just because it's a bigger percentage of what they make in the year, but it's fair in that each person is paying the same amount of taxes. And what this then does, and this is why it is actually good for both the rich and the poor, is it incentivizes people not to consume so much, but rather to invest a lot of their money, because investment taxes, like capital gains taxes, are progressive ones, meaning the rich people and the poor people tend to spend a lot more money depending on how much money they are putting into the market. And that makes it so less people invest. What it would mean if you got rid of capital gains is poor people would be more incentivized to invest and their poverty would go away and poor people would become richer and go up. And rich people would invest even more, meaning that there would be more stimulation in the economy, more investment, more companies, more employment, all of that. And Democrats really don't want that. That's not how their kind of ideology fits into it. It's a very right-wing, very conservative view. Their progressive taxation kind of discourages taxing on the other end. So in any case, this is a huge win for Ron DeSantis. It's massive. Again, every free market conservative is going to be a fan of this. He's floating as well a $1,000 rebate to all Florida homeowners with the surplus that they have in the government, because he runs the government very well there. They tend to have a budget surplus. So he's thinking of giving $1,000 back. In addition to that, he's fighting the legislature, which is actually predominantly Republican. The Republican Party there is not wanting to abolish property taxes, but DeSantis is fighting them because he wants to abolish them completely, which would only solidify, in my mind, how he is the most effective governor in modern American history, in my opinion. I think he already is. If he was able to abolish property taxes in Florida before his term is up in 2026, I think that would solidify it much, much more. And this brings us to what his future political aspirations are. The big question for a lot of people is he going to run for president in 2028? I think he should. I've been very vocal about the fact that I'm a massive DeSantis fan. I love him. And I think he will. And I'll tell you why. DeSantis is hugely popular. He learned some very good lessons from running a bad campaign. If you ask Republicans, why didn't you vote for DeSantis in 2024? Everyone's going to say, because I just like Trump better. They're not going to say I didn't like DeSantis. Everyone can agree DeSantis didn't run the best campaign. Everyone says that. But let's be honest as well. Even if he had run a good campaign, he was never going to beat Donald Trump ever. And I think he kind of knew that. I think he kind of caved to a lot of the people who wanted him to run. And I think in his own soul, he knew he was never going to beat Donald Trump. And I think anyone who did run against Donald Trump knew that. He is likely going to go up against J.D. Vance if he runs in 2028. And I like J.D. Vance. However, his resume does not even come close to comparing with Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis has massive things he's done in Florida, both politically in terms of turning the state more red, and also in terms of like policy, what he has done for the people. J.D. Vance is a great defender of the Republican Party. He's a great defender of MAGA. But in terms of what he's done, I mean, you can comment down below. I don't really know what J.D. Vance has actually done substantially for the American people. I don't think he's had a lot of opportunity to do it, so I'm not faulting him for that. I'm just saying, if you want to find someone who has concrete evidence of doing fantastic conservative things, DeSantis is your man. I also don't think, this is kind of the big question, is Donald Trump going to endorse one of them? I don't think he is. And a lot of that evidence comes from the recent interviews that Trump has done. Trump has said he may not really endorse anybody. He kind of wants to see what the Republican Party is going to do about it. Now, I think if there was an anti-Trump person that was going to be nominated, which would never happen, but let's say it would, then of course he's not going to endorse them. He would endorse a pro-Trump person. But in terms of J.D. Vance and DeSantis, they're both pro-Trump. And so I think he's just going to let them duke it out. This is actually from the most recent polling from the 2028 stuff, and these polls are shoddy at best. I mean, it's just way too early to tell, but I'll just show you it because it's the most recent data that we have. If you look right here, you can see that DeSantis is in second place in the most recent 2028 GOP primary poll. Even though he is second, he is way behind J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance has 60%. Ron DeSantis has 8%. So it's not even close. Like I said, it's very early, and I think the gap is going to get a lot more narrow once the campaigning actually starts. So that's, do I think he'll do it? Yes. What's the actual evidence for him doing it? I think it makes a lot of logical sense. I think he's done being governor in 2026. He can't run again, which is the perfect timing to start a presidential campaign. He's never going to be more relevant than he is right now. I don't know what he would do after being the governor. I suppose he could run for Senate. I don't think that's a horrible idea, but I think the idea that he's going to become more popular is probably not true. I think now is probably the best times ever. And what's really interesting, and this is the biggest, I think, evidence that points to him running in 2028, is that there is a new Florida governor race. And Byron Donalds announced that he's running, and there was a lot of speculation for a long time of whether or not Casey DeSantis, Ron's wife, would run. And she hasn't done it, and she's had a lot of time to jump into the race. Many people said she would. The polling looked fairly strong for her. Some had her winning, some had her losing, but it's so early that to even be close is a good enough reason to start running. However, she's not doing it. And I think the reason why is because Ron DeSantis is going to run for president. And you can't really, again, you can't be president and have your wife be the governor of Florida. That just doesn't work. And so I think they had to sit down and make a choice. If they had chosen Casey running for Florida governor, I think they would have announced it by now. They're running out of time. Byron Donalds has had a huge head start. I don't think they're doing it. And I think it's because Ron DeSantis is running in 2028. So I think that's a great sign that he's planning on running. Let me know in the comments if you would vote for him. Hey guys, I'm excited to announce that I am rolling out my new Substack. One of my favorite things about the show is being able to interact with you guys, and Substack just makes that a little bit easier. We're able to bounce political ideas off each other, do live chats, and Q&As. My Substack also has a newsletter that I send out to you guys so you can keep up to date on the news, my opinion, and analysis. My Substack also is free to join. Comes in your email. There's no download required. So go check it out right now. The link to join is in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Please like the video and subscribe to my channel so that other great patriots like yourself will see it. And stay tuned every day at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show. You can also watch another video right here.